The following presentation is part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network.
We get new episodes of The Mandalorian every week from now until like Christmas, but some fans, they just want to spend time complaining about the child eating eggs. All right, fine. We'll talk about it, but we'll also talk about the character that we think makes a cameo in Chapter 11 coming out on Friday.
In George Lucas's own words, he talked about his original plan for his sequel trilogy, including a Darth Maul resurrection. How did this concept and others come to life in the latest Disney canon?
And we have a trailer for the LEGO Star Wars Holiday Special. Ben's got a lightsaber, Lando's got a new cape, Rey meets Vader. Why you should be excited to celebrate Life Day as BTBD Live starts now.
The farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest. You're watching Beyond the Blast Doors live.
Yes, you are watching BTBD Live on a Wednesday live, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, where we're always talking about what one of our true great loves. We love Star Wars, and we love having you with us here for episode 96 of BTBD Live. Welcome in. It's your favorite, well, we assume we're your favorite Star Wars friends to talk Star Wars on a Wednesday night. It's myself. It's Pete Fletzer. How you doing, Mr. Fletzer?
I'm awesome. How are you doing? I'm really excited to be here. Every week I watch that new cool kind of introduction. It's not new anymore, but it's newer, and I hear Arezou do a headline and you do I'm like, yeah, let's go talk about some Star Wars. This is
way to get amped.
Hey, it's the Red Bull talking.
Yeah, this guy's fired up. Hey, we got Arezou with us. Arezou, how are you doing on this Wednesday night?
I'm doing good. I was dancing in my seat before we started, so I think I'm ready to. I'm excited and ready to.
Absolutely. It took a lot for us to get here in this moment. We're so glad to be sitting down and talking Star Wars. We have a lot to get to in this next hour. Maybe if you're willing, you'll give us an extra 5 minutes this week so we can fit all this good stuff in. Stuff that we didn't even talk about in headlines. Real quick, I want to shout out the live chat. And then I have a surprise, Arezou and Pete. Did you know that I had a surprise tonight?
No.
I brought it's like if there was a box, I would open the box and be like, here it is. But let's go ahead and dive in the live chat real quick. Say hi to everybody who's with us for episode 96. Matthew, Mr. Rez is with us. Apprentice Ewok. We got Galanorian Saber. We got Pete. Pete, you're on the show too. How about that?
I'm double-siding things. I'm doing, working both sides.
We got Nick. We got Andre. And we have a few others in here. Scotty J-Ro is with us. Frammy, everyone. We got Ion Cannon with us as well. So we're asking everyone right now, do us a favor and hit that share button right now on this live show. Let's double the chat. We're really excited about tonight's conversation. And I'll start it off with the big bang because our holiday giveaway on the BTBD Live, here's how it works. To win for free, a Star Wars Black Series Snowspeeder. This is valued at $120.
Wow.
And all you have to do, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this live show. And then when this show is over with, refresh the stream and you're going to comment on your favorite moment from the episode, or maybe you agreed with us on something or you disagreed with something. Let us know how you feel. Just make sure at the end you include the hashtag Frost Covered Wampas. Don't you love that? I love that. Frost Covered Wampas. Oh, there's innuendo there, I think. Hey, you can receive one entry each week leading up to the drawing. The winner will be announced on BTBD Live December 2nd. So be sure that you join us for December 2nd to see that raffle. But Arezou, Pete, and I are going to be doing this every week. So it's really simple. You get it one entry a week, and all you got to do is make sure you throw that comment and like the live show. So today, that's what you'll do. We'll come back next week. You'll do the same thing. You get 3 times to enter. Pretty good deal, I think, here on BTBD Live. So we're really excited to be doing that giveaway. And before we move on, I just want to take a moment and say thanks to all the veterans. Today is Veterans Day, and it's brave men and women who fight and risk the ultimate sacrifice so that we have our freedoms. And some of those freedoms include doing a Star Wars YouTube show on Wednesday night. So you might think that's a really poor use of their fight for our freedom. And you might actually be right in that argument. But nonetheless, here we are. And Arezou, you were telling me about something you saw with
Yes.
like the Tuskegee Airmen and Lucasfilm. What was that all about?
So Lucasfilm, on their site, it's lucasfilm.com/Tuskegee Airmen. They are running an educational program about the Tuskegee Airmen. So about their history and sort of all of that. So that is available on their website now. And I encourage everybody to go check it out.
Very cool. And did you guys see, this is like really not on topic, but did you see that the Tuskegee Airmen movie, Red Tails, that Lucas did several years ago in theaters?
I wish I did. It's one of those that I need to find.
I missed
So
it.
it did not get a lot of attention or love by the critics, but I really enjoyed it. Just think like George Lucas filming, like instead of a space battle, like instead of the Return of the Jedi space battle, think of that, but like it's World War II fighters. Like it's badass. And I really enjoyed it. I would encourage everyone to check it out. So my goodness, I think, guys, we need to just step right into this because we have so much to talk about. So without further ado, here on episode 96 of BTBD Live, Mandalorian Chapter 11 drops on Disney Plus this Friday. But our favorite series, starring an armored warrior and his adorable young charge, returned last week with Chapter 10, The Passenger. Will the frog lady find her husband? Will the child's appetite ever be satisfied? And just how much of space's vacuum can circulate in a spaceship before it explodes? Science doesn't exist in Star Wars. Fans hope to get the answers and more in this week's episode, set to drop this Friday on Disney Plus. And I got to ask you three, there's controversy about this episode because the child is eating frog lady eggs. That is the story. So it's interesting because I thought the story coming into this moment was going to be people saying it's a filler episode, people saying it's not a filler episode. Pete, I am going to start with you.
Uh-oh.
You seem invested in this. You wrote an article about the morality of egg eating on beyondtheblastdoors.com.
Yeah.
So take it away. Where do you stand on this controversy? Are you upset about the egg eating child?
I am not upset about the egg eating child, but I'm torn on it. And I understand. Here's the thing. When you talk about anything that's quote unquote controversial in Twitter, you need to be prepared for what comes with it. And it's one of those things. When I watched it, I didn't even take note, and maybe that says horrible things about me as a human being, but I didn't think of it that way. I mean, I kind of caught onto it, but I didn't have the reaction that a lot of people did, and that's totally fine. But the reaction that I got, I think the more important, I don't want to say more important because people will take it the wrong way, but to me, it's not. People saying it's a filler episode, it's not a filler episode, because what it's showing us is this ambiguity, this moral gray area where both the Mandalorian and the child live right now. And, if you watch the episode again, which most of us probably will before Friday morning, you'll notice that they did a lot of camera work where you see the child watching the Mandalorian and making decisions. You saw some of that in season 1, but I think to me that's the story here. The story of the passenger is more around this concept of what is the child learning from the Mandalorian. And if you read my article on beyondtheblastdoors.com, the thing that I spoke about was it's an interesting story because the child is drawing Din Djarin to make better decisions and be a better person, and the child is doing what toddlers do. I've had 2 toddlers. They will look at you, you tell them not to touch something, they will look you in the eye and do it. They're trying to find where that line is, and the question is the Mandalorian the right person to help him find that line? And I think it's a really interesting story, something you don't expect to see in a science fiction fantasy world with space wizards and bounty hunters.
I love that. And I like how Scotty J-Ro comments on here saying, bring on the controversy. Arezou, I think you stand completely on the different side of this argument. Personally, to me, you know what? This is just the child. The child doesn't know any better. I eat chicken eggs. What's the big deal? You take offense to this.
So there's a couple of things, because I did not like this gag did not land for me, because here's why. So first of all, I eat eggs too, but I don't think I'd eat eggs if the chicken was looking at me. Second of all, if a sentient chicken walked in with a basket of her eggs and said, "These are my last eggs that I will ever have, and I need to fertilize them," I would not then make a Western omelet. while she was watching me. So there's that. That's like my personal thing and why it didn't land for me, because it's sad that this is Frog Lady's last hope and it's being played as a laugh because the baby's eating it. But like removed from sort of the child and Din, like sort of in story, sort of outside of the story, something being written like this as a gag. I get wanting to have the baby do a baby thing and not listen to his dad and put it in his mouth when the dad says not to. The reason a lot of people are upset, and this hasn't been my personal experience, but it has been the experience for other people, is that having all of your hopes placed in the last eggs you will ever have is very reminiscent to some of IVF treatment. I mean, we're getting serious for a second, but it's very reminiscent of that. So to have a baby essentially messing with a lady's metaphorical IVF treatment is upsetting, because that's reminiscent to them of them putting all their hope in the last eggs they'll ever have, and then it working or not working or whatever. So I think it's less an issue of wanting to show sort of where the baby and Din are in their relationship, because I think that's important. And it's more not having a voice in the room to say, hey, hang on, this is what this looks like. So if we're not treating this as a terrible thing, because Frog Lady didn't react that angrily to the loss of her eggs in episode, and I really expected her to. So to not have that treated as the serious thing that it is then making light of something very serious to a lot of people, which I'm sort of almost there, but not quite in my own personal view of it.
So I'm going to be honest. I love and admire you because you have opinions and you have strong takes, and that's great. I guess when I'm reading everyone's thoughts and when I hear what you're saying, like, I get it, but I'm also looking at this as it is a TV show. And I'm also like Phil Sostek, for example, he's with Lucasfilm. He actually went on Twitter today and actually kind of like responded to this. And like the episode does like make it clear, like they're unfertilized eggs. It's not like, I just don't, I'm just really surprised how passionate people are about this. And maybe that's a credit and a kudos to the script on this episode, because the storytelling was so strong. People really developed an emotional bond for Frog Lady and her eggs, and really excited about the Mandalorian helping her reunite with her husband and get these eggs fertilized so that they can get the species going back. Like, if that's gotten people excited, that's incredible. Because I can tell you, I watched this episode 2 times. And I did not get emblazoned with such fury and passion. But if you did, I think that's great.
Let's take it as an example. Let's have a similar scenario where the baby and Din are chaperoning an egg vendor with really expensive, really rare eggs, and they're about to make their fortune selling this to somebody, and the baby's just kind of eating them. That's funny. Funnier. It's not the funny thing, but it's funnier because it's not a deeply personal story to the egg vendor, in that this is the last of the egg vendor's line, like their family. I know they're not fertilized yet, but that is her hope, to take them to find her husband to fertilize the eggs. So if you want to put that in the script, you need to make it clear that this is not comedy, because to say that this woman's hopes and dreams for her future are literally being swallowed by a toddler is not funny. It's not funny to me. It's not funny to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, dark humor works for some people. Like, it worked for me, and it doesn't seem to have bothered Pete too terribly. It had a different reaction with you. I think that's a great thing about Star Wars. I think that's a great thing about storytelling, is that it can elicit these different emotions, different joys. Sometimes it pulls out anger. And I think that's the interesting thing about, maybe let's take it even further back than just storytelling. That's the thing about art. It registers emotions in people,
right.
And
people see it different ways. People hear things differently. And that's very interesting, because this episode, I mean, I think it's interesting too to see our reaction here, right? I mean, you have 3 different points of view, and it's interesting because I hadn't looked at it the way you had just brought it up there, Arezou, and it's a really interesting perspective. But what David said that I think is important is maybe we should be giving a lot of credit to Filoni and Favreau for writing an episode about a frog, a little green toddler, and a guy whose face we never see. And we're able to make this emotional connection at different levels. And again, having children who have gone through that stage, there are times the way I was on the Nerd Academy show last weekend, and we talked about how my son will sometimes say a swear word, and I know I have to be mad at him, but it's funny as hell. And I have to pull back, and I have to be the parent there. And that's the way I see it. And I think, look, I think if it was a human woman who was trying to have a child, I think that would also bring it to a different level. But the fact that they're able to portray that emotion in a frog, literally a frog, she's not even like some strange species name that we usually get from Star Wars. She's literally Frog Lady. We've seen the child eat 2 frogs in the series so far. And so there's that connection, but she doesn't even speak English. Nobody understands her on the ship. And we have now made this connection with Frog Lady that we care so much about her future offspring. It's really interesting. I mean, again, I will admit I am not going to that level that a portion of the fandom has gone and gotten offended by it, and I can see it, and I respect responding that way. I haven't, but it's a credit to Favreau and Filoni to have created a story that we care that much about, and it's telling an important part of the arc of the entire story in a very unique way.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm most excited to see about Pete and Arezou, is seeing how this chapter fits in the overall story of season 2. Something that I caught myself doing last week and this week again is, that didn't land quite right with me, but you know what? I can't think about it as a 35-minute slice. I need to think of, I bet this is going to work a lot better when it's in that full, complete season that we'll get by end of December. And I also do want to reiterate the fact that totally respect everyone's view, and we all do respect that. So, that's what I love about this show now, is that we get 3 different perspectives, and there is not one right or wrong. Some have, we just get to talk about Star Wars, and I think that's cool. And I love seeing the passion that all 3 of us have for a topic. I know we all like this episode. Arezou, what is one element of this chapter that you did enjoy, which has you excited looking ahead to chapter 11?
My favorite part of this chapter was Baby Yoda's sort of renewed, not comfort, but sort of the way he gravitates toward Din as a father more now, like the little waddle for him to be picked up, or like how he's nuzzling into him when he wants to fall asleep. Like, so they're getting much closer, I think, maybe more than Din is ready to admit, that he is essentially this child's father. Like, he's like, I'm going to take him, I'm going to deliver him somewhere. But the way it's going, and especially the way Baby Yoda is acting around him now, I don't think he's going to be able to do that. So that's what I'm excited to see, is the development of their bond as that gets stronger.
Very interesting. I'm not someone when I watch an episode or I watch a movie, I'm watching the story unfold, and I don't always catch the Easter eggs in the background. Not until I go back for a couple viewings. So I myself thought that this chapter was okay. I was one of the people saying this feels like a filler. I watched a second time and identified a lot of what you just talked about, which is the relationship that's developing between Din and Yoda. The child. That was so funny. I called it Yoda because it looks like Yoda.
I keep saying Baby Yoda instead of the child because that doesn't come naturally.
Yeah, I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to call it the child because I said Baby Yoda like a couple weeks ago and people are like, David, it's not Baby Yoda anymore. We know it's the child. Okay, fine. So, like I was saying, I thought some of those Easter eggs were fun going back the second, third viewing and figuring those out. But it's not the main reason why I were to watch an episode. Pete, did you have an Easter egg, a moment from chapter 10 that you really enjoyed, has you looking forward to this week's episode?
Well, I mean, I loved seeing Treadwell cooking the meat. But I think two things I loved about this episode. One is every single one of us could associate and identify with the Mandalorian's desire to constantly want to just take a nap. It has been a very long 2020. There's at least 2 or 3 times during this episode that he just wants to sleep, and I love that. But I have a hot take. I think Pelly set him up for something. And I think Pelly is going to turn into I think she'll redeem herself, but I think she set him up for something. I mean, sending him in a sublight passage certainly allows somebody to get ahead of him to wherever he's headed.
I think that's a solid take. And I didn't even think about how it could all be a lie. I personally think that, okay, and this is an assumption, but I think Frog Lady is taking Din and the child to that water planet with the harbor. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's a likely outcome? Are we going to find out who this hooded female in the crates is going to be here on Friday?
I sincerely hope so. I'm ready to see who she is. Settle whether or not she's Sabine, because I hope and don't think that she is. I genuinely hope she's not Sabine. So I'm excited to see who she is and what role she's going to play. So I'm ready for that.
And do you think it would be a minor character because it wouldn't? If it weren't Sabine, do you think that it's a character that will have a large impact on the story?
I hope so, because Sabine has her own story. She has Rebels. If they ever do a Rebels spinoff with Ahsoka, she has that. So I think if they're going to bring in another character now that they teased, in the trailer like that and got everybody talking, I hope she plays a bigger role, because I know she's not the lead. That's just Din, but I hope she plays a big role in it.
And she may not be Sabine, but it would be cool if Sabine is there, because if I remember correctly, they said that Frog Lady's husband knows a Mandalorian, so maybe they're going to connect him to Sabine or Bo-Katan.
That would be wild. Listen, whoever Sasha Banks is, I hope it's a character that does stick around for more than one episode. Obviously we're not talking about it really much this week, but yeah, Boba Fett's going to come back at some point. Yeah, we're not too worried about that. We know that character we get to play with later, but right now I think that we're getting to the point where, yeah, it feels like a Sabine, or I don't think Bo-Katan, but a lot of possibilities. I personally, just in this moment, not related, I really do hope the armor makes a comeback in season 2. I think that would be a lot of fun. But I'm thrilled to see how this story again unfolds this Friday, Chapter 11. We don't have a title. We'll all find out together when we watch the stream.
What's it supposed to be called? What's the alleged title?
I don't even remember. I stopped looking at our list because they were so wrong. They were so wrong. But but is there anything else that we need to talk about looking ahead when we think about Chapter 11? Is there something that you anticipate happening in this next episode that you think is going to knock fans out of their seats?
I want Dr. Pershing back, but I don't think he's coming back.
It'd be strange if he showed up in the harbor, right?
Yeah. I will scream. You'll be able to hear it. I really want him to come back some point this season.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that, if you think about episode 3 of season 1, it was it was an important connector and solidified the relationship between Din and the child. I think this episode will also give us some sort of direction for the season, right? I think it's going to put him much closer. I think, the first 2 episodes, he was looking for a Mandalorian, but wasn't able to find one. I think this one, he's going to find one, and this is going to start the second half and sort of the full arc of the season.
Awesome. We want to know what you think. Let us know what you think about The Mandalorian season 2 so far. Were you upset about Chapter 10? Did you find an Easter egg that you really enjoyed? Are you thrilled about another episode? They just keep coming week after week. It's a pretty good time to be a Star Wars fan. We want to know what you think. Let us know in the live chat. You can also let us know down in the comments section. Make sure you include frosted covered wampas to be entered in that contest. Or you can also let us know at BTBD Star Wars to continue this Star Wars conversation. Now, this was a little bit longer of a conversation, but we had a lot that we wanted to dive into in regards to The Mandalorian. A lot of different elements to the story this week, which makes it to me more exciting that it's not just like, well, what do you think it's going to happen next week? Like, we kind of talked about that, but there was definitely other elements in there, and I appreciate the 3 of us having respect for each other to have that conversation, and also the people in the live chat. I think that the conversation's been really positive for a lot of different perspectives. Everyone's just having a cool conversation, and that's what we want to facilitate here at BTBD Live, just a fun Star Wars conversation. So jumping into the live chat real quick, it says, we just need 10 seconds of Kenobi and the heads will explode. Mando is popular, but Kenobi will be on a totally different level. They're shooting it like a movie, Matthew. I think it's going to be nuts. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Frammy says, we may not get more Fett this season. If we assume it was him at the end of the Gunslinger episode, we may have just the slightest glimpse again and not get another significant Boba Fett moment for some time.
It's very true.
Oh God, if they kept him over till season 3, I'm going to be pissed.
Have they already been renewed for season 3?
Yeah, they're doing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's already in production.
Yeah, and Giancarlo Esposito has hinted at season 4 as well.
Bo-Katan is way too old for the timeline. Okay, Gilster, just throwing ideas out there. Appreciate you backing me up. Andre, I want Sasha Banks to be Sabine. I think that's a popular opinion. I think that's what a lot of people want her to be. And we're just kind of on standby for another day and a half before this comes available. I'm tempted this week because I'm so interested in seeing what happens. I might just stay awake till 3 a.m. and watch the damn thing. What do I care anymore? I already have bags under my eyes. My hair is turning white. I've gained weight. I look like a mule. Why not? Don't comment in the live chat about if you think I look like a mule or not. I don't want to hear that shit tonight. Okay, hey.
Yeah, write it in there right now. Yes.
Hey, let's talk about the next topic here on BTBD Live, episode 96. So glad you're with us. Do us a favor. Share this live show right now on your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever platforms you're on. Let's see if we can double that live chat tonight. Again, we're going to show those contest rules one more time at the end of this show, so that way you can enter to win a free Star Wars Black Series Snowspeeder, courtesy of Josh over at Hollow Chronicles, donating that item for us to give away. Pretty cool there. Next topic here. Why Disney's female-led Star Wars TV show sounds a bit more exciting now to fans, but it's also a bit controversial, again, with the controversy in Star Wars.
Yeah, it's Twitter.
Right, yeah. People are triggered here about Leslie Headland's Star Wars show being kept on a pretty much need-to-know basis. You think that would be what upsets fans? Not even close. She's provided some cool tidbits about what we can expect. For instance, she recently confirmed that the series takes place during a previously untapped timeline in the Star Wars universe. And I want to start with Arezou on this. I want to get the right graphic up here. My goodness, where is the right graphic for? Here we go. There's the lower third.
There it is.
Hey, I just want to have a conversation about why are you so excited about this topic, because this is something that you brought to the table this week.
So I'm excited about this. First of all, female-led sci-fi Star Wars. We need more of it, but that's my brand, and it's a surprise to no one watching. But what I'm excited about mostly is this untapped timeline thing, because I didn't take it to mean like an alternate universe, because I think that would be stupid. But I think it's the original trilogy era is such a comfort zone for storytelling, for Star Wars storytelling, and everything in the books, in the shows, and well, obviously the movies, but like the books and the shows and all the other ancillary media, everything's kind of happening one on top of the other. Because even if they try to branch the story out, it always sort of ties back into the Death Star or the Empire or whatever Luke, Leia, and Han are doing. So if she wants to move so far away from that it's like a previously untapped era, I want to see that. I'm excited for that. There's a 30-year gap between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. There's only some of those years have been touched. So there's that. There's, post-sequel trilogy. There's sort of leaning more towards the High Republic era. So she's and then beyond in either direction. So there's so much room to play. And I hope that she really takes advantage of that. And doesn't stick to those core Battle of Yavin years.
Absolutely. I think a quote that I thought was pretty interesting that she shared in a recent interview on a podcast. She said, quote, "I would say it's in a pocket of the universe and a pocket of the timeline that we don't know much about. I kind of see if Star Wars is a religion, I like to think of my show as a tent revival. You can come over if you want, but we're going to be talking about some really cool stuff." I think that's where people are finding this notion that this is like some alternate universe. And that's just universe. It's not the case. No one is saying that. She's not saying that. You're seeing a lot of, unfortunately, clickbait sites doing that, and it's causing a lot of division in the Star Wars community and among Star Wars fans. And listen, when I first saw that, I got a little upset too, because you just had this issue in 2013 where Disney buys Lucasfilm, you restarted the canon, you made expanded universe, legends. You don't consider those stories to be canon, but you can pull from those stories whenever you wish. it was smart on the point of Disney. Now they get a clean slate. They can tell the stories they want. And when they bring something back that's uber popular from fans, they get rewarded for it. It's ingenious in a way. And for Disney to backtrack on that would have been horrendous. And so, Pete, how do you interpret this thing? Because I think that, she mentions how she's going to be kind of jumping all around in a way. Can you give us some insight on that?
I'm going to say something that it's not a fully formed thought yet, which is always
this will go well.
So this could be a
Maybe we can help you get there.
But here's the thing. So we know that a lot of people are already pissed off that Leslie Headland is doing this, and they're playing the SJW card and all this other stuff, which is just ridiculous. It's this constant drumbeat against quote unquote Disney Star Wars. But hear me out. It's a female-led story, she says, in a part of the Star Wars timeline that hasn't been fully explored. Again, haven't thought this out yet, so it could be completely batshit crazy. But what if she's doing a Mara Jade story? How awesome would that be? Because then everybody who's been wanting the EU stuff and hating Disney is going to be like, I don't know what to do with this. But it is a unique part of the timeline. It's a timeline that we haven't explored in that Leia, Luke, Han era post Return of the Jedi. It's a unique time in the universe. And you know what? Maybe she is not alternate universe, but maybe extended universe, maybe Legends universe, creating a story. Crazy idea, but I think it would spin out people so hard on their heads they wouldn't know how to respond. And I would love to see it.
I think that's a great idea.
I hate it.
Arezou, you don't like that idea at all?
Well, okay, so here's the thing is like I haven't read any of those books, but it doesn't matter what you do because people have built up Mara Jade in their head so much. And here's the thing, I haven't read Legends and I know who Mara Jade is. Like that's how much she's been built up. Doesn't matter what story you tell with her. Her biggest diehard fans, the ones with the profile pictures of Mara Jade, Disney Star Wars is not my Star Wars, # bring back Legends, would hate it.
Yes. But they wouldn't know how to respond because they want that story, right? They keep calling for, give me that story. And if it came from somebody that they have decided they don't like already for whatever.
You know what? If it's going to make those people unhappy, do it.
Oh my God. Fuel the flames. Fuel the flames. And remember.
And then I wonder why I get hate mail. Do it.
Remember, George Lucas himself did not like the Mara Jade character.
That's right.
Which is something that often gets forgotten about. I personally like the idea that this could be a Dr. Aphra series, which is very enticing. Dr. Aphra herself has gotten 2 comic series. We're on the second version right now. Very popular. When you look at the monthly sales of Marvel Comics, the Star Wars comic that usually is in the top 50 is the Dr. Aphra series, which is pretty impressive. I believe that's
book, which is how I got into Dr. Aphra, and I read
the Aphra book is exceptional. And Pete has an episode there with creators of that story. In fact, you talked with Mark Thompson, right? Who did the voice of Vader in that.
Yeah.
So, it's just a really great character that's really developed from the comics. And, we have like a Snap Wexley who went from book to screen. It'd be really fascinating to see Dr. Aphra go from comic to screen. So
that would be wild.
My fingers are crossed. We would like to know what you think about this idea of this female-led Disney Plus series. We're clearly all really intrigued about it. Very excited to see this come to fruition, even though we don't know a whole lot. Let us know in the live chat. Also, let us know in the comment section down below. You can always tweet us at BTBD Star Wars to continue this Star Wars conversation. Live chat, freaking out right now. Everyone's having a great time. Are there any, Pete, that you've seen that bring you a particular amount of joy? Or should I just start grabbing them?
Grab some from there. I haven't had a chance to dig in.
Well, look at this one. Frammy, wouldn't they need to completely reinvent Mara Jade? Her stories would be incredibly hard to fit in with the current timeline and stories. Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, am I wrong? But they've basically retconned her to this point, so they can morph that character to fit the narrative.
Or tell her story, her backstory. That would be interesting as well.
I would love if they completely changed her backstory, but made her a redhead named Mara Jade with a purple lightsaber. And then just everything else about her is different.
Like she's Mace Windu's daughter.
Little shout out, Scotty.
Mace Windu's
she's
daughter.
Luke's daughter.
Please
no. Make her Mace Windu's like with the purple
lightsaber.
And
I thought you said she's Luke's daughter. I'm like, that's just a hole.
That would be weird.
Scotty
he
J.
kissed,
Something I don't
he
wanna
kissed his
touch.
sister. He fell in love with his daughter. It would be weird.
Scotty J. Rose says the video of George is in the Why We Love George Lucas video you can find in the Bombad Cast playlist on the Beyond the Blast Doors Network YouTube channel. I like this one from Matthew from 85 until the late 90s. It was the dark period for Star Wars. We are so lucky to have such constant new Star Wars content.
Amen, brother.
Absolutely.
Amen.
J.D. Slessman, they could tie her relationship with Luke to show how he lost it with Ben. So he was having some marital issues, and then he was like, you know what? I'm going to take it out on my nephew. And then he's like, oh, damn, it's my fault. I should have communicated better. Yeah, that would be a great plot for a movie. I think that would be great. Andre says, Mara Jade series. Okay, you've got my interest. Canon Junkie, more badass space ladies. That's what we need. I think we all could use more badass space ladies.
Amen. Bring that too.
Well, hey, we've reached that point in the show where Arezou and Pete are going to step aside for just a little bit here, and it's going to allow us to talk about Star Wars comics. Always excited to do this every week. You're watching episode 96 of BTBD Live. If you can, go ahead and smash that share button with the live stream. Let's try and get this live chat back over 22 tonight. The more people in the live chat, the more fun we always have. This week on Beyond the Panel, for November 11th, joining me as always is the incredible, the delightful, you know her as Marie Wilson from BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. Marie Wilson, welcome on this week. How are you doing, friend?
I'm great.
This week, listen, I am so jacked because we just got the next issue of Darth Vader by Greg Pak. And you and I have been on the same page here. We think this might be the best Star Wars storytelling in comics right now, at least what the year 2020 has given us comic book fans. What's it like for you? Because this issue, we're on Mustafar. Palpatine has left Vader to die, and he is climbing his way back through all the murders that he committed right before he was left for dead from Obi-Wan back in Revenge of the Sith. It was emotional. The artwork was mind-blowing. How did it land on your eyes and brain?
I really, really enjoyed it. I loved how it had flashbacks to the prequels, how the current storyline had to do with the sequels with Ochi of Bastoon. And one thing that I thought was really interesting was when Palpatine in the flashback was talking to Anakin, Darth Vader really, but still human Darth Vader. And how Palpatine said, "You killed them all, including the younglings." And I'm like, oh God, like that was part of what Palpatine was hoping that he would do. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but it was still a little,
It was wild. I thought the writing, Greg Pak really flexed a new muscle in this article. When he was talking about, I think there's a line, something about you may or may not have a new responsibility to the Emperor. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But there were just a few moments in this comic where I really felt like the writing was so strong. The fact that he's climbing himself out away from the lava,
yeah,
and he's got the freaking memories of the younglings around him.
Yeah,
others that he
the
massacred.
younglings standing behind.
It was incredible. How do you?
Yeah.
We're 8 issues in. I didn't think that it was possible to have a Darth Vader focused story that can make me think, wow, this is almost as good or if not better than the 2015 run with Charles Soule. I mean, 8 issues in, is that too ridiculous of a thought to have, or are there elements of this story that make it pretty damn good, Marie?
I mean, I think for sure the fact that it's connecting everything, that we have the prequels and the sequels, and of course the originals because it's in that timeline. I think just the fact that he's able to make all of those connections is incredible. So I have really been, and like I've said, the fact that we thought this arc was just going to be Palpatine punishing Vader and like, oh, this isn't, but then I thought it was going to be boring. And then I got into it and was like, whoa, this is really intense and kind of frightening. And then I loved in this issue how we see Vader put himself back together using mouse droids and battle droid parts. That I love seeing Vader tinker. It makes me so happy.
Do you know how like passionate you have, like how driven and focused you have to be in the moment? Like literally limbs lost, and he is rebuilding himself in the moment. And you can say the force is flowing through him, but this man is a psycho. Now he gets attacked. We don't want to give away everything in this issue. You need to check it out. There is a reveal at this end that's like, we're gonna get into some Sith lore like a mofo in this next issue, Marie.
Yeah. And ties in with the Rise of Skywalker novelization, and I'm just like, yes, give it to me.
And listen, we're not going to tell you what the tie-in is, but we're going to give you some Ben Solo action in that. We're going to give you some Kylo Ren in that, and we're just going to I'm doing like this Jonathan Van Ness thing from that Netflix show, but it's like, seriously, it's like just sprinkling in so much canon connectivity.
Yeah.
I like, listen, I love this issue. Give me the next one. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it, Marie.
Absolutely.
Before we go, I do want to share this real quick with everybody. This is from Charles Soule. Dropped this today. He's letting everyone know that the first volume of his run of Marvel Star Wars is out today, this week, The Legacy Path, with the mark from Jesus Saez. This is collecting issues 1 through 6. This is the new Star Wars run, the 2020 run. And yes, it does start after the Empire Strikes Back, just moments. It's that trip back to Cloud City, how Luke gets a new lightsaber, which we talked about a few weeks ago, Marie, the excitement and the curiosity of how Luke managed to get a yellow lightsaber. So really excited to see that unfold a little bit further. And God, I freaking love Star Wars comics. Before we let you go real quick, Marie, can you let us know what should we look for on our local comic book shelves next week?
Bounty Hunters #7. So we should be getting more Zuckuss and Forlom, which will be intriguing.
Yeah, I think so. And that's definitely a comic run that if you are really into the nitty gritty of canon connections and new Star Wars stories, it's perfect for you. I think like the Star Wars and the Darth Vader, and to some extent even the Afra, can be for a more casual fan. Bounty Hunters is pretty insider baseball. So it's thick. You'll want to catch up. It's not a comic that you can just jump in the middle.
No, especially not the way it's been going. It's very, you have to have really followed along to understand what's even going on. So
it's really complex, but that's why Marie reviews these comics every Wednesday on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. You can find every issue of Bounty Hunters reviewed on our website. Also, we got a spoiler-heavy review for you of the Star Wars comic that we just reviewed, Darth Vader. You can find that also on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. Marie, thank you so much again. Where should the good people follow you to continue this comic conversation?
You can find me on Twitter at Alia Morgaine.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, Marie, thank you as always for joining us here on BTB Live. We'll see you soon, friend.
Bye.
Marie Wilson is the absolute best. Always enjoy her and just being able to talk Star Wars comics with you. Let us know in that live chat what you are feeling. What are you thinking about Star Wars comics? Do you think maybe your New Year's resolution will be reading more Star Wars comics in the year 2021? That would be a great resolution if you asked me. It won't be Pete Fletzer's, unfortunately. Pete, I'm still trying to twist his arm to read comics, but he spends so much damn money on Funko Pops now that it's just not going to happen. Now he wants to rebuild the set. Where are you going to put your thousands of dollars of Star Wars collectibles?
I'll just sit on them. I'll sit on them like the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones. I'll just sit on helmets and Funko Pops and Legos. I don't know what that means, but that's where I'm going with it.
That just reminded me of the freaking Elf movie where it's like, you sit on a throne of lies. I freaking love that movie. And I've eaten the spaghetti with the candy corn and all that stuff and the syrup, and it's actually kind of gagging. Okay, cool. So
I think we should do that on the BTBD Christmas special.
Should we? You know what? I'll do about anything. I have like no dignity. I'll do it. Okay. And I censored myself because I don't want to say the F word on this show. All right. Hey, cool. We're going to keep the show going here on BTBD Live episode 96. Everyone is having such a fun time. Like the live chat is inspiring me. Like I'm so happy that everyone is having such a good time. Frammy commenting about the love of the Funko tee. David, thanks for the plug. Oh, absolutely. Scotty J. Rowe. We want to give the Bomb Badcast all the love. Only appropriate. That's what we do here on BTB Live. We're going to tell you about what's happening in Star Wars, where it's the movies, the TV, the comics, the toys, the cosplay. We cover the spectrum. We also give a little love to that network fam of ours. That's what makes this so special. Hell, just last week, we had Josh and Andy on from Holo Chronicles talking about the Razor Crest, the HasLab project. That video has almost 1,500 views, which is just crazy. So
amazing.
It shows when you flex that muscle of the network. And then I asked them on this week, and then they're like, "Nah, maybe next week." So now they've gotten a little exclusive.
See?
Now I got to work a little bit harder, because they know that they're in demand.
They've gotten expensive. They have.
They're terrible human beings. I can't stand them. No, I'm kidding. But hey, let's talk about this, because this is going to get people fired up. The topics this week are intense, and we won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but Ron Howard says there is no Solo sequel in the works, but there is a story to tell. So listen to this. A Solo 2 may not be a project Lucasfilm is tackling right now, considering a lot of stuff going on in Disney Plus. And I don't think a box office project is happening for a long time. Maybe that's what we're talking about next week. But there is this genuine love for Solo 2, the Make Solo 2 Happen social media campaign that our friends over at the Resistance broadcast started, for example. Ron Howard admits that there are no plans for a follow-up right now. He was on the show Lights, Camera, Barstool, and he says that there's nothing in the works, but the public's continued interest in the movie's characters could ultimately lead to them coming back on screen. Maybe something similar that we saw with the Clone Wars. So, Pete, I'd like to throw it out to you. I always kind of felt that Solo 2 would be best as a series instead of another movie.
Yeah.
Made tailored perfect for Disney Plus. Do you think that would be successful if the fans keep pushing?
Oh yeah, I think they could sell that in a heartbeat. I think we'd all love to see sort of the continuing adventures of Han and Chewie and have Maul as sort of this overarching bad guy. I know we're going to talk about Maul in a couple minutes from a George Lucas perspective, but I think there were, I remember, my review of Solo: A Star Wars Story before I was on the network, and I had a little stupid little blog, was that it ended basically promising a sequel, and that these actors deserved it, and I would love to see it. And I think I agree. I think, look, we're seeing the success of Mandalorian. We're seeing that live Star Wars works, and I just want them to do it before Alden Ehrenreich is too old to play a young Han Solo.
Dude, and that's like a real threat. And yeah. Again, my favorite thing about Alden is the fact that he was just like, yeah, I'm signed for 3 movies. And Lucasfilm was like, shh. Like, don't say that louder, for the love of God. Arezou, I think that there's so much that you can appreciate about Solo, A Star Wars Story. I think that there's, especially in that relationship with Han and Lando, I think just Donald Glover's performance as Lando. I think what we get to learn about, like, how the Rebel Alliance is fractured, that Rebel call throughout the galaxy. I mean, do you not want a Solo? I mean, I'm feeling like you want a Solo sequel, but are you upset to learn from Ron Howard that there's just nothing happening right now?
Okay, so nobody's going to like this, and I apologize to the live chat. If we don't get a Solo 2, that's not the end of the world for me. I like Alden Ehrenreich. I think he makes a great Han Solo. I love Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. I thought they were great. And if we could see them in some capacity in, like, another story, that's awesome. But my thing is, with Han Solo, the reason I'm hesitant to want another Solo movie is that no matter what story you tell, we know where it ends. We know he's going to end up in that canteen on Tatooine, and then after that, we know what happens with the rest of his life. But if there was space in another Star Wars story to see the two of them come back as those characters, I think that would be awesome. And I also think it would be awesome if we got something about, like, Kira and Maul and their whole underworld deal. That's sort of the cliffhanger that the movie left on.
See,
so
I'm gonna take your point.
On Dathomir. I'm like, what's on Dathomir? Like, let's
Jedi Fallen Order, baby.
We're right. We are all on the same page here. We are all on the same page here.
So
and it's what Arezou. This is why I would say that I think that Solo originally should have been saved for a debut on Disney Plus. I think the expectations would have been drastically lower. I think there was so much changing of the guard with directorial decisions, and how they wanted actors to approach characters and how they wanted actors to approach acting, that they were never going to make as much money with this movie when they decided not to market this movie. Disney was focused on the MCU. I think it's one of the reasons why the sequel trilogy has suffered a lot of times it's because Disney has all these large brands that it has to promote. It has to pick a brand. And we love the great thing about Lucasfilm, especially like the prequels. Lucasfilm only had the prequels to promote. It was everywhere. That's why you had toy aisle after toy aisle of merch. It's why there were all the shirts, all the costumes, all of that was because Lucasfilm had control of that. And at least that's what I think. And because Disney picked the MCU over Star Wars, the word didn't get out there. It had a lackluster box office. People use that as ammunition against it. Listen, it's a fun movie, but I totally think it would work way better as a TV series. And that's what I hope. I hope we see moving forward. I'd like to see the buddy cop kind of thing with Chewie and Han, but I think everyone is unanimous. Maul, Kira, Dathomir. Let's go, Crimson Dawn. Let's get some
I think
syndicate action in there.
There's another really important lesson from Mandalorian is that you can sell merchandise from a television show. That was a risk, right? And now you can't go to Five Below, you go to Walmart, you go to high-end stores. There is Baby Yoda. This is the way. Yeah, I mean, there's even Cobb Vanth shirts at Spencer Gifts and things like that. So it's all out there, and so you can merchandise it, and I'll bet you can merchandise a solo story on Disney Plus as a series much better than they did the movie. I mean, they really failed in merchandising that film, and there's so much opportunity to do it with Han and Chewie traveling the galaxy, doing whatever Han and Chewie do. I think it'd be fantastic to see that.
I agree.
Didn't that come out within a couple months of Infinity War?
Oh, it was like a week or two of Infinity
so
War.
not only is that within a week of Infinity War, which is the grand finale, but it was also less than a year after The Last Jedi. So
it was 5 months after Last Jedi, and it was.
We didn't have a year to get hype because it was like The Last Jedi hype, and then
and that was kind of the point that I was.
And then
that was the point that I was trying to make
right after Infinity War. So.
Right, which is the exact point that I was trying to make, which was that you had part one of the grand finale, Infinity War, and Disney prioritized it, and that movie suffered. Hey, we want to know what you think about this topic. What do you think about Ron Howard confirming, listen, no Solo 2 effort right now, but fans keep trying. There's always a maybe. Let us know what you think in the live chat. You can also comment down below and tweet at us at BTBD Star Wars to continue this Star Wars conversation. Moving things along, not to be rude, but we have another topic that we want to talk about, and it's kind of the title topic of this episode. George Lucas provides new details about his original plan for the Star Wars sequel trilogy and Tashen's upcoming book, The Star Wars Archives. This is 1995 to 2005. This is from Polygon, and maybe the biggest reveal here is Lucas intended to resurrect the Phantom Menace villain himself, Darth Maul, and turn him into a main antagonist in the trilogy. Maul would appear with mechanical legs and become the godfather of crime in the universe, because as the Empire falls, he takes over. A direct quote from the book. And I'm really excited to see where we all land with this one, because this is something that people get really hesitant to comment about. You know, I understand. Listen, the movies we got are the movies we got. They're going to be canon. But let's have some fun with this, guys, because going back to 2005, maybe even earlier, George Lucas is thinking about, how do I bring back Darth Maul? And of course, we got him in the Clone Wars, and we see his end in Rebels, which, when you think about this, think how drastically different the Star Wars story is if George Lucas does tell this sequel trilogy. It would have a massive ripple effect. Pete, when you learn this, I mean, is this the most shocking reveal, you think, when it comes to what George Lucas recently said and what we're going to find in this new book?
Well, I think, first of all, it's important to note that I don't know that it was recently said, but recently discovered, right? Because it certainly would have changed things, because Maul wouldn't have been able to be murdered by Obi-Wan in the desert, which I think is just such a fitting end to Maul, because what drives him is his desire for revenge on Obi-Wan. That said, I love that it's clear that Filoni and the story group have stayed close to what George said, whether they execute exactly what he had in his plans or not. The fact that Maul does return in Solo, which we were just talking about, as the crime lord that he is, it definitely pulls off of what George had in mind, and I would love to see that piece continue to be fleshed out. It's interesting too that he also was pulling Darth Talon out of that, which was a character that actually I think took place a couple thousand years before. I think it was early in the comic books, but interesting that he liked that character. And it's funny, and this is where Star Wars and the fandom and the mythology of the mythology is so interesting, because we've always heard that George hated Legends and Extended Universe, but he seemed to certainly enjoy Clone Wars enough to get behind Maul coming back, and liked Darth Talon enough to want to bring her into the story as well.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting that you bring that up, Pete. And I think that George Lucas himself even recognized the biggest mistake he made with the prequels was not making Maul a more central figure, killing him off too soon. And of course, George was ultimately part of bringing Darth Maul back into the canon with the Clone Wars. So obviously he worked with Filoni. He had this idea in his head. We learn that he had, these treatments for the sequel trilogy that he put on the bookshelf because he looked at it as a decade commitment to tell a new sequel, and he wanted to raise his daughter, which I think is poetic in itself. He makes these movies for kids and for fans to grow up with and to, go on that hero's journey with. Well, he's taking a break so that way he can go raise his own kid. I think that's interesting. Arezou, I would like to ask you about this, the fact that George, in this book, and like Pete said, not recently said, but recently uncovered for this new book, Leia was going to be identified as the chosen one in the sequel trilogy. If George Lucas makes the sequel trilogy in like 2012, 13, 14, whenever, Leia was ultimately going to be the chosen one. And not necessarily what happened here in the sequel trilogy we have, but she's definitely a central figure. How do you interpret that? You kind of see like those two stories mirrored?
So you guys know I only like the first two movies of the sequel trilogy, but one thing I will say overall that I like about those two movies is that the focus is on the new generation, and that Leia plays her part, because like I love Leia. Leia is, the heart and soul of the rebellion. So that she plays that figure as like the chosen one for the rebellion, and not so much the Jedi side, because I think that's what you meant, but that she is sort of that chosen one. So I think in that respect, it's nicely mirrored without putting the entire bulk of the focus of the movie on Luke and Leia. I like that the new focus of the movies we have is the next generation.
See, and I think that's such a great take, because I'm one of those people that I wish this trilogy would have been a little bit more focused on the original three, because it's so rare a franchise gets the opportunity to come back to the table in 40 years and still have the three main leads living and can tell that story. But, I don't think that's what the conversation is. I mean, I think for me, though, I'm satisfied because it's like, oh, well, George would have told a story that might have been a little bit more focused on those original three for maybe a little bit longer. Maybe they would have been together at least for one frame in episode 7. I do think it's interesting, going back to a point that Pete had, Maul being the villain, to me, like, I think it's cool, and that could have been really epic, but I prefer the story that we got in Clone Wars and Rebels, especially because Darth Maul coming back from the dead is just too small for that sequel trilogy. Like, I'm kind of disappointed to see, from at least the information that we have so far, is that Plagueis wasn't going to be the ultimate baddie. Because I still stand by Darth Plagueis, the villain, the baddie for the culmination in 7, 8, and 9 is there in that opera scene in Revenge of the Sith, when they're sitting there watching the Mon Calamari dancers. And have you ever heard this tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise? That is the story. That is the baddie. And that said, there are some things that I really do love about the sequel trilogy. I think some of it's great fun. Some of it doesn't work for me. But in my head, I really do wish that Plagueis would have been revealed as the baddie, because then for once I really would be, well, I would rather have that, than like, we got the Colin Trevorrow script, and I was like, got some good things, but I'm at peace as a Star Wars fan. I think I'm buying this book though. Are you guys maybe interested in picking this up, or is there something that we haven't discussed in this that you think we should talk about?
I want it, but it's $300 here. So
it's $300 in Canada.
Yeah, with the exchange, it's almost $300 here. So I probably going to sit this one out. But if somebody would like to lend me their copy, I want to read it.
You know what? Right now, it's $150 for those people in the U.S. And so I do want to let everybody know that, again, the Star Wars Archives 1999 to 2005 will be available in the U.S. starting December 13th. The book is already rolling out in the U.K. You can visit Toshen homepage to order the book, or you can head over to Polygon's website for more highlights from that book. So definitely check that out. We want to know what you think about this new information. Do you like these ideas that George Lucas had for a sequel trilogy? Yeah, we've already talked about the wills. He was going to do the will stuff. It was going to be really deep into how the Force worked, but he was going to make Maul the bad guy in 7, 8, 9. That would have been a trip.
I think that the last thing I'll add to this, David, is that I am a big fan of the what ifs, but not at the expense of what we got, right? So whether we look, Arezou and I are in a similar camp about Rise of Skywalker, but you know, that's the story we have. So that's what we're living with, and that's what we're doing. That's Star Wars now, and for better or worse. And Last Jedi, not everybody loved that, but that's Star Wars now, for better or worse. And the last thing that I'll say is, when Mike Chen was on my show a couple weeks ago, he had this really unique point of view on what would make, and how he kind of, in a way, views the sequels. Mike Chen wrote a story in The Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view. And that is, if you don't look at them as 7, 8, and 9, if you look at them as a continuation of the story and some of your old friends show up, you can digest the story a little bit differently. And ever since he said that, I've looked at the sequels a little bit differently. I wouldn't go so far as to say what some people say is it's not canon or that it's fan fiction, but I will go so far as to say it's a continuation of the story, just not necessarily 1 through 6.
I totally agree with you.
3.
It's Act 3,
but it's or Act 3, and then I don't know what happened with 9. Sorry.
She is salty about Rise of Skywalker.
Just, you're watching Act 3 of a movie, and then you're starting to fall asleep, and none of it makes sense, and then that's what happened. Sorry. I said I wouldn't do this, and then I did it anyway.
You were really close to keeping it in, but it's all right. That's why we love you. Hey, Gilster says, what if Watto married Shmi Skywalker? Yeah, I guess if we would want to just rewrite all of Star Wars, that would be an option. Look, I like this, but from Frammy, we definitely need something about Plagueis, especially as the book became Legends. That's a very interesting take. J.D. Slessman, I see the sequels as a legacy of the Star Wars story. That's an interesting way to look at it. There's some glossy vibe I get to the sequels, the way they were shot. It just feels like there was like lamination placed over them, and it kind of feels like they've been dreamed up, like they were dreamed up, and we have them now, and we have them to watch forever and ever. Hey, real quick before we go, I got this from Arezou, and I do want to share this real quick. We have gotten the trailer for the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special. This is the last topic here on BTB Live episode 96. We're so glad that you're with us. Lucasfilm released a brand new trailer this week. It's the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special. It drops November 17th. Looks like it's a lot of fun. Looks like we're going to be following around Rey. Rey gets another movie. Battles Darth Vader. They run into the child. Lando gets a new cape. And then Han Solo runs into Han Solo. There's just a lot of the antics that I think that you anticipate with the Lego Star Wars movies, which should be a lot of fun. I really like Lego Batman. Arezou, you want to talk about this? So real quick, let us know why we need to be paying attention to this Lego Star Wars Holiday Special.
Okay, so first of all, more Star Wars is always good. But then what I like about Lego content, generally speaking, Star Wars, Lego Batman being my favorite Batman movie, is there's a lot of heart in Lego and a lot of very earnest sentiment, but it's also so meta, which like a little bit of meta is good in like the sort of side stuff. So it always gets so meta that I think that alone would be worth a watch. Like Rey and Darth Vader stopping their fight to comment on how cute the child is. Stuff like that. So that's why I'm excited for this. And we get it soon. So we get a little bit of like brand new Star Wars content in the middle of all this Mando.
It's kind of like the ultimate playground, right, Pete?
Absolutely. I think that's what is so great about Lego Star Wars is it's fun, it's self-aware, it in some cases, I think one of the complaints that people have said about the sequels is that people who've invested in all the extended universe stuff and all the minutia, they don't get the payoff, but you get it in Lego Star Wars. There's jokes, there's the surface humor that my wife can enjoy. There's the stuff that my kids can enjoy because it's purely playful fun. And then there's the jokes that we saw in the trailer. And clearly that trailer, I think, was made more for, those of us in this sort of Star Wars social media echo chamber, because the jokes in there they're for us, right? I mean, a lot of them are there for people who know Star Wars. And I am excited about it. And we'll be talking about it next week because it'll be out next week when we are all on the show together.
That's right. And coming up, I wanted to shout out Bombadcast one more time. When you're looking ahead for Star Wars conversation this week on the Beyond the Blast Doors Network, be sure you tune in. It'll drop, I believe, Saturday at 10 a.m. Central is when that episode will become available. And Scotty and Jerry are talking about the Trade Federation blockade from episode 1 in the style of the Joe Rogan podcast. So I'm not sure who's Joe Rogan. I think Jerry works out. Maybe Scotty does too. Neither one of them have tattoos, I think. I haven't examined their bodies closely, but nonetheless,
I'd rather not.
It's going to get very weird. Yeah. It's like, hopefully they shave and buff, Hey, that's going to be a great conversation. And you should definitely check it out, but definitely going to get very weird again, 10 a.m. Saturday on the Beyond the Blast Doors Network. And, guys, I'm just so thrilled to have this conversation. And again, to have fun conversation, having different opinions, being able just to respect and appreciate everyone's opinion. Arezou, you delivered the goods this week and we just really appreciate it. You girl, you get on your pulpit, girl, and you preach, girl. What'd you say?
Just my unfiltered opinion. Now that I'm comfortable.
We love it. Hey, you know what? It took a couple weeks. It took a couple weeks. We're here. We're one big family. We're having a good time. Before we get out of here real quick, I want to shout this out one more time because I'm really damn proud of this. This is the power of our network. We're giving away on BTBD Live for our holiday giveaway the Star Wars Black Series Snowspeeder. This is valued at $120. I believe this is with I want to say this is 6-inch scale. So that's badass. Three things you have to do to enter to win this giveaway. You have to be subscribed to our YouTube channel. You have to like this episode on YouTube. And then on YouTube, you have to comment on this episode with your favorite moment from the show. Maybe there's something that we talked about that you agreed or disagreed with. Give us your hot take in the comment section. Every opinion is respected. Just don't get disrespectful of other people's takes. That's the one thing we don't accept and we don't allow. We don't crap on people. But we can have that fun conversation about Star Wars. And make sure that comment includes frost-covered wampas. That is super important. Hashtag frost-covered wampas. Feel free to use that on Twitter to share with your friends and let them know that they can enter on the fun.
Yeah.
It's really important that you do that. So again, when this live show ends in just a couple of seconds, be sure you refresh your browser so that you can comment on this live stream. You can do the same thing next week and the week after to get yourself as many as 3 entries in this raffle to win a Star Wars Black Series Snowspeeder. I feel like I ran a marathon, folks.
Can I win it?
You did it.
What?
You cannot win that. You have enough money to go buy your own damn speeder, and you're on the network first and foremost.
You can quit for a couple of weeks. Then
I'll
come
quit
back
until
on the 3rd of December.
till mid-December. I'll hold up. I won't do any shows.
Fun fact: Pete almost wasn't on this show. He was like, "Hey, I'm doing my show before this show, and I don't know." And I was like, "Well, if you can't make it happen, I understand priorities." But no, Pete's here, and
we have a great show next week, which I just recorded tonight.
Oh my God, he found a shameless plug every time he finds a way.
Hey, we are a network. We all care about each other's shows, and we work together. So I'm going to just run with it because, hey, if you've gotten the new book from a certain point of view, The Empire Strikes Back, this week we had Mike Morisi, who did a story called Beyond Hope, which is about a Hoth trooper. Next week, I have Brittany N. Williams, whose first piece of fiction published is in Star Wars from a certain point of view, and her and I think we just laughed for an hour, and we talked about L337 and the Phantom Menace, and we talked about solo a Star Wars story, and I don't even know what we talked about, but it was so much fun, and that's going to drop next Tuesday. Me and Brittany and Williams talking about her story in From a Certain Point of View on Around the Galaxy on Tuesday.
Pete, if they want to follow you, where's the best way to find you?
Follow me on Twitter at ATGcast. That's the only place. Or, some random article that I might write for BeyondTheBlastDoors.com.
Well, let's not make it sound random. We have new content daily. Arezou, where's the best place to follow you on social?
So you can find me on Twitter at Arzooming and writing on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com.
Arezou and Pete collaborate on reviews of The Mandalorian Season 2 chapters. They're out every Friday by Friday afternoon. They are spoiler heavy. They find all the Easter eggs. They do an incredible job. Thank you for you guys doing that. It's really cool to see 6 months. The Beyond the Blast Doors Network is really elevating itself. And that's not me bragging. Like, it's just facts. Daily articles on the website. We're cranking out a ton of content on the YouTube channel. Our live shows are growing in quality. We're having new crew members join, like Arezou. This is a fun time to be part of this, and we're so glad that you are watching or you are listening with us, a part of this Star Wars conversation. You can find me at Ammo on the Air on Twitter, and also the show BTBD Star Wars. You can follow us there. Everyone's having a great time in the live chat. This means so much. Gilster, JD, Frammy, Matthew, Mr. Rez. We got Nick in there. We got Cannon Junkie. We still got Scotty. We got so many others. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of BTBD Live. And honestly, we get to continue the fun next week. And don't forget, this Friday, after we watch The Mandalorian, Friday afternoon, we're going live to recap The Mandalorian Chapter 11. Myself, Josh, there's going to be others. We're not sure who could pop up. Shannon could pop up. Arezou could pop up. Maybe Pete ditches work. He pops up. We just don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to be talking about that this Friday. So be sure you join us for that incredible Star Wars conversation. It is going to be so much fun. We'll see you then.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.